within your heart, ancient and wise. I see a love within your heart, ancient and wise. Prepare to share abundantly with those in need, like a baobab tree, my baobab tree, like a baobab tree.
Welcome everyone, my name is Litsa Detvas. We are celebrating the 4th Digital Fashion Film Academy, and our guest today knows everything about the creative and fashion industries, from filmmaking to fashion design, stopping off curation and reporting for Elle and Vogue France. Diane Pernet is a pioneer of digital culture, and in 2005 she launched her blog as influential as visionary, A Shaded View of Fashion. And in 2008, she founded the first fashion, style and beauty film festival, A Shaded View on Fashion Films. ASVOF, the annual festival, in addition to Paris, has held international editions in Shanghai, Istanbul, Tokyo, Rome. And if I list all her accomplishments and awards, we will be here all day. So we are at 3537, the Dover Street Market, Paris Operatic Cultural and Creative Center, where the last edition of the festival took place. So thank you so much, Diane, to share with us and being here. So let's start for the very beginning. How did the idea of the Fashion Film Festival come about?
It was back in 2005. Well, actually, I thought about it. The first germ of it was in 1991. Much too soon, right? Because I was a costume designer on a film, ASVOF, and I understood that film directors are very nervous about fashion designers. So I thought it would be great to have a festival that shows how one supports the other. I mean, if you're a good costume designer, you're not drawing attention to the costumes. It's harmonious within the film, as it should be anyway. But then in 2005, Mark Ely of the brand Ely Kishimoto, it's a British brand, commissioned me to do a road movie of the launch of his menswear collection. And it was with the Gumball Rally. And Gumball Rally is car race for rich guys and fast cars and hot girls and fast cars. And they had designed the exterior and the interior of the car. Mm-hmm. And so I was on the support team, and I made a film called The Adventure of Pleasure. It's like 18 minutes. It's like a road movie. Mm-hmm. And I had a contributor to my blog, because the blog started, like you said, February 2005, who said, "Do you want to show the film in Los Angeles?" And I was like, yeah, why not? And then I thought, I don't want to just show my film. I'd like to do a festival. So in 2005, there weren't a lot of fashion films. There was Show Studio, and different designers did more like art films. It was Jeremy Scott. He did great films. He still makes great films. And that's how it started.
And when did you first realize that a fashion film festival could work and was needed?
Well, I felt, like I just said, I felt it was needed when I met ASVOF, and he had hired me as the first costume designer, and in the end, he was scared because I was a fashion designer for 13 years in New York for my own brand. I thought that was going to be my first job in Paris, and actually it turned out I was the 6th costume designer on the same film. I was the last one that redid. They all got fired, I guess. Mm-hmm. He's impossible to work with. Even the DP changed once. But that was, when I realized there's a need for it. But because things move very slow in Paris, it went from 1991 to 2005. And actually, it launched, the first one was called You Wear It Well, mm-hmm. and launched 2006 in August. And I had the idea in May, and we launched it in August. You never do it like that. But the more ignorant you are about doing things, the more fearless you are. And you don't think about. So it was the very first fashion film festival on the planet. And then a couple years later, what's it called? La Jolla. Mm-hmm. The guy, Fred Sweet, who runs that, called me and said, "You're the first one in the world, but I'm the first one in America." And I said, "Great." The more the merrier,
And as a director, what goes into organizing the festival each year? Because every year you change the programs, the categories evolve, and it's always changing and new things.
Yeah, well, because I don't look at my festival as something that's cliche fashion. It's a cultural event, and it's got to be in time with what's going on in the world and in the place where we all live. So this recent edition, I did my own kind of organic dematerialization, which is the new trend, right? But I decided to take 4 external curators, mm-hmm. and for them I assigned them a category, and then let them pick their own jewelry and curate it. So one was working with Amber Slowden from The Fabricant, mm-hmm. because she's the first one, a major person to do, and she's quite young, to do digital fashion with The Fabricant. And she sold the first NFT in 2018, the dissolving dress, and mm-hmm. everything she does is brilliant. She's working on the next edition as well. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, black representation in films. Let's see, like if you make a category, of course, bear in mind that it's always an open call, and you can submit your film for anything, for the main competition or for one of the separate curations. You're not locked in because you're Asian, you have to submit, and it doesn't work like that. But it was more to show the power of all black productions that hadn't really been given a platform. No. So, and then there was, of course, sustainability. I call it conscious fashion, which is something I've been interested in for a long time. And I asked this woman I met when she used to be the editor-in-chief of Vogue India, Bandana Tiwari, who left Bombay, moved to, where is she? Bali, and lives a totally sustainable lifestyle. Mm-hmm. She went from Bombay, which is, such a concrete city and so intense. And I thought, she is a real example of conscious fashion. And so I asked her to do that curation. And then Alex Mary Leslie, she's a doctor in in her field, not a medical doctor. And she's like a more academic, scientific, and also like TikTok and the like. So I asked her to curate. She also does a performance band called Chicks on Speed. And I met her in Barcelona, actually, years ago. Because ASVOF, even You Wear It Well, was in Barcelona several times. They were...
So in Bilbao?
And Bilbao. Bilbao was a little bit later. Bilbao was probably the third edition. But Barcelona, because there used to be a magazine in Barcelona called Be Guided. Did you know it?
No.
It's by an Argentinian guy. And I used to write for them, and he's the one that got very excited about my film festival and brought it there several times.
So the festival travels, you meet new directors. Have you noticed if different countries have their own style of filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, say Nordic directors, it's more dark normally. This is cliche generalization. You know, British, there's more humor, I'd say. American, I don't know that there's, Americans are mixing. You can't really say it's an American style. I mean, you could say if it's Hollywood, but really it's quite mixed. French is a little more intellectual. Italian is maybe more romantic and sensual. And Japanese is Japanese, Asian, I think, is quite fascinating. We're going to have a new category next time. Asian films. I had commissioned someone to do films from China this edition, but I didn't like his curation. I thought it was very commercial and not interesting and not representative at all of the films. But the next duo curators are fantastic.
So how did you choose the jury? The films in competition, you said it's open. It doesn't matter if it's for a brand, a major brand, or an independent young talent. And also for the second city of ASVOF, how did you...
Well, it goes by invitation.
Okay.
And if the film festival is invited, and in the beginning, because it's the first fashion film festival, like 2006 and 2007, when it was still called You Wear It Well, there were like 12 countries each year. But I was doing it with a collaborator from my blog. It covered, based in LA, because the first one was in LA at CineSpace, August 3rd, actually. But he was lazy. He did like LA and San Francisco, and that's it. And after, I give people too many chances. That's my problem. I should learn. Just like when you know it's not right, just cut it immediately. Because I was thinking, I'm doing 10, you're doing 2. And I have, Guggenheim in Bilbao, and the MoMA in Antwerp, and all these, and you're it's not balanced. I'm a Libra, I like balance. So I worked with him for 2 years. And then, and during those 2 years we went to more than 20 countries. And then of course the thing is, nobody knew what, I know that's something you want to talk about anyway, not in the proper order, but nobody knew what a fashion film was. So to start a fashion film festival, you spend all your time explaining. It's the same criteria as watching any other film, except the fashion has to be a protagonist. Not that I want to see, here's the bag, here's the shoe. That doesn't interest me at all. I like storytelling. And with a short film, it's like, maybe if you're not drawn into it in the first 30 seconds, you might never be drawn into it. Like in a feature film, I give it 7 minutes. If I'm not drawn in, I don't think it's going to get much better. So, but then because I was a pioneer in this, naturally people started over the years becoming aware of fashion films, and then they would create their own film festivals. But a lot of them are very red carpet oriented. Mine is more about creativity and culture than, here I am, like wearing.
The DNA of ASVOF.
Yeah.
Talking about jury, did you try to have a representation of different artists or disciplines making all this team?
Yeah, I like, to have people that could be an architect, an artist, a designer, a film director, an actress like Rossi de Palma. She was involved in, Spain has always been involved in the festival, actually. She was, the 10th edition, she was the president, but prior to that, she was involved in 5 other ASVOFs. I had her as a DJ when we were in Cannes. I had her special, it wasn't, I don't know if we called her the president or what, but when it was in Barcelona, I love her. She's great. So, it's a mix. It's a mix.
I suppose you watch hundreds of films every year.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you been the most original ideas or amazing stories that stuck with you recently?
Well, the grand prize winner this edition, Kid Super, he's a designer, but as well as a designer, he's a damn good film director. And he creates films that, it's storytelling, because he had 2 in this edition. And he won Best Film, the grand prize, but he also won Best Director. And we had some great films, but that was, the tally of votes. And, I can go back through the history of ASVOF. There are films that will always resonate with me. Tim Yip in, ASVOF 8 did a film called Kitchen, and it was just actually preparation of a meal for the emperor. But the festival is fashion, beauty, style. It's very open. Anything can fit in. And Jean-Paul Gaultier was the president that edition. And he had said too, maybe people aren't going to understand some of our prizes, but fashion, it's everything you do is fashion. And also the grand prize winner in that edition is a film I love. I was on the jury in Sapporo for a short film festival, and I discovered this film called Hungry for Love by Justin Ambrosia. It was such a great story. It's just something I can remember every single scene. It was great. It was about this guy who is chubby, not a sumo wrestler, but he's getting there. And he's on the computer dating, a date app. And he's been communicating with this girl for months, years, maybe, who knows. And finally she says, it's time that we meet. And then he starts doing exercises as if in 2 hours it's going to change. And then he's looking at his closet, and this is not a fashion film. The guy that won the award, he flew to be there not knowing he won the award. It's at his own expense because we're a non-profit. It's not like I can bring you there. And he was shocked because it's everyone whether they're like fashion conscious, they're thinking about how they present themselves, right? So here's this guy and he's in front of his closet, so he's thinking about, what shirt he's going to wear, or what jacket. It's not a label, but it's fashion, right? Fashion, beauty, style. Then he goes to the designated space, and the girl, I guess, is on the bike. He's waiting. All this time's going by. The girl sees him and just keeps going. So and then it's another story how he meets someone else and is in the eating frenzy, and they're just eating themselves to death. One girl wants to die eating, and it's a really great story.
Sense of humor always is
I love sense of humor. I love sense of humor. And there's another film like Jumper that won a different year. I can't remember which year it was. And it was like a takeoff on Terima by Pasolini, but it was when Dries Van Noten was the president. And it was like in 5 minutes you have this whole story. And it was perfection. It was perfect.
So, can you describe the evolution in fashion films that you have seen since you started the festival? Because everything's changed in terms of a conception of filmmaking.
Yeah, because in the beginning, because agents for fashion photographers saw, okay, this is a new medium, and they figure, like, here's an example. There was a film submitted to me, beautifully styled, great clothes shot, perfect light, everything's perfect. But it was like a photo shoot in movement. It wasn't constructed like a film. And I was talking to the agent, and I was like, this story is typical of how it was in the beginning. And I said, it's beautiful, but it's not a fashion film. It's not a film. She said, but it was shot with the red camera. I was like, yeah. But it's, just because somebody is moving doesn't make it a film.
It's about the content.
And the construction and using all the elements of filmmaking. So I think there was always a lot of photographers' agents that wanted them to make films, but they're not filmmakers. Some of them, like a Bruce Weber, Ellen von Unwerth, Stephen Klein, they understood filmmaking, but the majority of fashion photographers, it's not the same way of a frozen image is a frozen image. When you're constructing a film, first you construct a story, and then you have sound, and you have editing, and art direction, and acting. There's a lot going on. And a film director is trained much differently than a still photographer.
Are there any new trends in fashion filmmaking? Length, lightning, use of apps, or this kind of...
Well, a long time ago, like in, I guess it was in the Barcelona Film Festival, we did like a mobile app, like 1 minute films. And I think more and more there are a lot of people using just your mobile phone because the image is good. I used to have mini DV camera and then, this camera and that camera. Now I just use my iPhone. Although I'm not really making, my films are just fly on the wall. They're nothing.
And about mobile phones, what has been the impact of the smartphones and social media on fashion cinema? Is it a bad thing or a good thing?
No, I think it's one thing, because actually you hit upon, I was just talking to Yu Masui, who was on my jury this year, and I asked him to curate a section next edition, so all your viewers, please listen.
Yes.
It's TikTok and Instagram, so make it like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. That's one section because, as we all know, everybody has, ADD, attention deficit, and brought on by social media. I think what's most important is that you make the film as long as it needs to be, but not longer. Because if I start looking at the timeline, it's not working.
You're searching for the final.
Yeah, because what I learned when I was working as a costume designer, the last one with the Almas-Gatai film, I was talking to the DP, who was an amazing man. He was 87 when I met him. He'd worked with Jean Cocteau on the original Belle et la Bête. He worked with Wim Wenders on Wings of Desire. And we're sitting watching the first, not the final edit, but the first edit. And he said, because I'm looking and I was like, God, get rid of a half an hour. This is dragging on. And he said, it's always the same. Directors, they fall in love with the images and they don't know where to cut. And it's like, he agreed with me, this needs to lose a half an hour. And it did. It was still too long, if you ask me. But
So, who are the film directors that you have an eye on at the moment?
There's so many. There's so many. The guy, Kid Super, Colin Dillon. Justin Anderson, now he's working on feature films. There's a guy, Ivan Olita, that makes documentaries that are so good. He's really good. Tim Yip, I convinced him to make films, fashion films. Yeah, it's really interesting. I was in Guangzhou in China, outside of Shanghai, and I was cutting a ribbon with him and 7 other people, those huge Chinese scissors. And this guy, Tim Yip, was the first Chinese to win an Academy Award for art direction and costumes for Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger. And he did costumes for so many things and art direction. And I said, I have a fashion film festival. Why don't you make a film? And he did. He made the first film because he has this art project with a life-size doll. And he flew, and it was at Centre Pompidou because I was there for 7 years. That didn't get that much comment. But then he made his second film, and he wasn't at Centre Pompidou. That's when he won the Best Art Direction. And he's been making feature films ever since. And so he's someone that it's very interesting for me. And it's interesting for me.
Keep in touch with him.
Oh, yeah, I think he's going to do something for the next edition, too. Yeah, I like to follow people's careers. Matt Lambert, he did his first fashion film when Michel Ami was the president. And they met, and he's been doing films for Rick Owens and everyone you can imagine. They're very sexually oriented. But, he did his first film was for the British Fashion Council, and that won like the best styling, and he's been growing ever since.
And about fashion films, what are the most iconic films for you?
You mean in the history of fashion
Yes.
films? Well, if we go back to Who Are You, Polly Magoo, by William Klein. I had him as do a master class with Rossi de Palma, actually, in, I think it was ASVOF 5 or something. There was also a film, let me think. Jerry Schatzberg. He did a film called Puzzle of a Downfall Child with Faye Dunaway. This was in the 70s. And I did an homage to him when ASVOF was in New York. He's the most amazing person. Because I was watching the film, which is about a model, like the end of her career, 25. You know, she was too old at 25. And it was an amazing film, like, because I was thinking, like, feature films that are fashion films don't get it. But I was watching this, and I had no idea that Jerry Schatzberg used to be a fashion photographer for Vogue and all the major publications. Because I was watching this shoot, there was like Faye Dunaway, and there was like a scene with a bird on her shoulder, and it was just like the whole way it went, the exchange between the photographer, the model, the exchange between the casting director, it was great. So I think that if you've never seen those two films as someone wanting to make fashion films, you have to watch them because they're excellent.
So
but they're long films, they're feature
recommend
films.
to someone who wants to get into fashion films? Starting with
Yeah, I mean, you can go on my festival site and just click on, investigate all the winners because they're great.
And talking about smartphones, the digital environment, you think that they have contributed to the fashion film becoming more popular?
Social media in general, yeah. It's freezing in here. Yeah, because everybody's always looking at their smartphone. They're not looking where they're going, they're just looking at their smartphone. So, you have all the TikTok, Instagram, short films. All the influencers that are constantly filming, and some are a hell of a lot more creative than others. Like Yu Masui, he does really funny, hysterical films about eating and fashion and all different things. But yes, that's increased the awareness. But even if you go on an airplane now, you have, whether it's Dior and I or whatever, you have fashion films that never used to be on the airplanes. And they're in hotel lobbies and they're in elevators. It's massive now.
It's massive now. Yeah. And the impact of the pandemic, have the brands made good fashion films replacing their fashion shows? Or you think they lost the opportunity?
A lot of them lost the opportunity because they're not, they can't delegate,
Yeah.
Like, you're a fashion designer, you're not a filmmaker. Except if you're Jeremy Scott or you're Colin Dillon, Kid Super. Those are rare exceptions. But to delegate and find a good director. Brands that always have good films are Prada, Miu Miu, Saint Laurent, Kenzo. They understand it. But then somebody who just does like a blank, like, okay, we're going to do a catwalk in an empty space, like, who cares, really? The only one that did it, that made it work as just simply like a catwalk, was Yohji Yamamoto, because he makes it dramatic, and in a way it's working. But and Issey Miyake always does beautiful things. It's always joyous and uplifting, always. He's never sad. And different.
To never disappoint.
Different directors or different designers match up with great directors, and they do something wonderful. But it's still, it's growing. But the thing is, there's not a brand around. Whether it's a small independent brand or a major brand that isn't using fashion films.
You think independent brands are more open to this tool, fashion films and innovation?
Well, the thing was, okay, during lockdown, for 2 years of lockdown, or it was 2.5, like going into whatever, there was a democratization of okay, you can have Gucci. Gucci does great films too, and Valentino. You can be on the same level, right? Because you're all on the
At home.
and you're all on the internet. So I think it's like with fashion. If you have less money, you have more creativity. Just put yourself together in a way that some designer is going to copy anyway. They're going to see you on the street. But it's also you're a young brand and you don't have much money, but you have creative ideas. So, and sometimes big brands get lost. But not all of them. They're catching up.
And you always say, a good film is a good film. Do you think fashion films are fairly considered as the cultural and artistic production they really are?
I think it's growing to that. But, my festival's been, if I count You Wear It Well, it's been 16 years. Or 17, because I missed 1 year. I mean, I had to show the same edition in China and a museum in Boston. I missed 1 year. So I think 17 years is kind of establishing something. And big brands will use directors like David Lynch, Wes Anderson, Martin Scorsese, because if you're making a feature film, or Natalie Lee Cohen, I love her work. If you're making a feature film, it could take you 5 years to get the budget, right? So in the meantime, whereas film used to look down on fashion, right? So fashion film was kind of the same as art, but now they all merge together, and one supports the other, and I think there's still a problem of, making money on a fashion film, but there's still a problem making money as a journalist. And that's been going around even longer. So let's see, it'll grow.
Yeah. And do you think the fashion films will be someday included in the regular cinema awards as a fashion film, as a category?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've always said from the beginning I would like that as a satellite to, Cannes and whatever. But, actually when the festival's been in Cannes maybe 5 times, and 3 of those times at the Palais de Cinema, on the rooftop. And but people are more involved in looking at the terrace and drinking. Alejandro Jodorowsky, he's been honored at my festival, and his wife is the costume designer and artist and art direction on his films. And she was saying, because we were in Cannes together when he had a film, I think it was Endless Poetry, or I think that was the one. And she was saying, these people, if you're invited to a screening and you don't show up, then you're not getting an invitation again. You're banned. So what happens is these people borrow clothes from Valentino, Gucci, Balmain, whoever, Balenciaga. Balenciaga makes great films. He's and also The Simpsons. That guy is the visionaire. He is major.
Yeah.
How I left him out.
The momentum of the Fashion Week with the
yes.
Like, wow.
Demna is the best. But Pascal was telling me they walk on the red carpet, they get their picture taken, and they walk right out the back. They don't watch the films. They don't even care.
They don't care about the films.
No.
They want a picture.
No. And I think the majority of fashion film festivals, the people are more, because they're all red carpet celebrity things, they're more interested in being seen than actually watching the content, which is crazy. saved. That's why they're saved by the internet, because the film will stay online. And if it's a good film, there is no sellout date.
And could we talk of a golden age of fashion films?
Talk about what?
A golden age.
A
Has
golden
exploded?
age.
Or we are still in a very initial moment of
Ah, yeah, I
creation?
don't think we're at the golden age, because if you think of the golden age, you think of it's already past. You know? It's like when you think of the golden age of Hollywood or the golden age of anything. No, we're not.
There will be a golden age in fashion films.
Yes.
We can talk about...
But we're not there
we
yet.
are not
No.
still there.
No.
Okay. And your festival celebrates and integrates filmmaking and fashion with other cultural and creative disciplines. So, to what extent is the aim to separate fashion from the fashionista stereotype and at the same time to be a platform for young talents?
You know, the submissions are very diverse. And a film for a brand that's more cliche fashion could be fantastic and could work. You know, there is no... The problem with, like, the jury decisions is you're comparing oranges to apples.
Yeah.
It's like at a certain point, it's like the categories are like, you know, best editing, best cinematography, best direction, best film. After you calculate all these, it's like, okay, which film has the most votes? But it's difficult because you look at like the film that got the best art direction award. That film is an animation.
Yeah.
So it's not like we used to, if there are enough animations, we make a category animations. But if they're not, if there's only 2 or 3, they're in with the rest of them. And if you choose, it's just like, it's a mix. It's a very, because what I like personally is so wide. It's just like listening to music. You might like classic music, you might like jazz, you might like, you know, rap, whatever. The same person can like all those things. So it's like, the main point is it interesting? Is it creative? Is it personal?
So the goal is to open, to mix.
Yeah, it's all mixed. It's all mixed. I mean, like I said, we have the dematerialization of the specific categories. There's also documentaries, a specific category. You know, so they're separated or they could be mixed in. You know, it depends. So,
Sometimes it
yeah,
could be
it's
hard
a
to do.
mix.
Yeah.
It's one merges into the other.
So,
And student films is an important category.
Yeah.
That's always been an important
it's important
category.
to know that
Yeah.
ASVOF is open to students.
Always, and it's a category I love. And it's amazing the work that comes out of students. Truly amazing. There's some submissions I said, are you sure you're still in
Fresh,
school?
they are-
Yeah, but
come
they're
with new
mastered
ideas,
also.
yeah.
They're mastered. It's like one, I remember on a couple of them, it was like, did you enter the right category? No, I'm a student. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Amazing. And can you tell us about one of the most emotional situations you ever experienced at ASVOF? Like you feel like, wow.
Well, there were so many of them. There's so many. When we did a tribute to Alejandro Jodorowsky, because I had wanted him for years, 6 years before I got him. And when I got him, it was fantastic. It was like a dream, because my festival had been in Mexico City, and one of the producers, or actually was the husband of one of the producers of ASVOF in Mexico City, he happened to be in Paris, but he happened to be the last person to put €1 million into Jodorowsky's film. So I had met him for tea. It was the night before they left, and I knew like the next day there was an art exhibition in a small gallery in Le Marais, which was with Alejandro. He would do the design, and Pascal, his wife, would color it in. They work like that's their child because he's like 92 and she's 40 something. So they're not having children. Anyway, he has plenty. So so I said after we had tea, and I just met this guy just, for tea with his wife, and I said, "Where are you going now?" And he gave the address, Arquebustier, or I think that was the street where this gallery was. And I said, but because I knew the opening was the next day, I was going because I wanted to meet him. I thought there's a chance, you never know. And so I said, oh, isn't that where Alejandro Jodorowsky and Pascal are doing their exhibition? He goes, yes, they're setting it up and I won't be there. And then I told him the story. It's like I tried to get Alejandro, went through, I don't know. He wanted 6,000 euros to be there. And I was like, this is a non-profit. And it was at Centre Pompidou also. So that didn't work. And I thought, you're just going from Daumesnil to Rambuteau. It's not that far, No. But anyway, and the producer was laughing and goes, yeah, well, he's like that. And maybe I should get like that too, actually, in the future. I think he was smart. But anyway, so I mentioned to the producer, and he goes, I won't be there. So you want to meet Alejandro? And I said, yeah. And he goes, but I'll tell like one of our team, the producer, to introduce you when you come. So I went with my friend Akiko, and we walked in. There was almost nobody there because it was at the beginning. And this guy comes up to me and he said, you're a friend of, the producer. And I said, yes. And he goes, why would you like to meet Alejandro and Pascal? And it's like, and that's how it started. And then I was invited to their house for tea. You walk in and there's this huge poster of El Topo and Holy Mountain. And it was like, wow, that was great. That was one of many. Jean-Paul Gaultier was the most fantastic president. He was incredible. Roger Avery, who co-wrote Pulp Fiction with Quentin Tarantino, he's the president. There's just so many.
It's about people. It's about
Rossi
meeting
De Palma.
amazing people.
Yeah. Bruce LaBruce this time, he was quite funny. Yeah. I can't give one. I'm a Libra. I can't make one. It's got to be a couple.
I understand.
And it's been a long time, too, so.
So, as a closing question, it's been 13 years, the third years of ASVOF, and looking back to the very beginning, has it been a difficult road?
The difficulty, more than anything, is getting money.
Yeah.
Sponsors, any sponsors out there, I'm very interested. That's, and of course the past 2 years with COVID, I have a channel on FNL Network where you can see a lot of the films. But of course, the physical aspect, networking, even though you reach many more people online, obviously, it's not the same. So I think from now on I continue to do both. Because we don't know the epidemic if it's ever ending. So, let's see.
So, thank you so much. It's great conversation.
Can I say, like, film submissions are open?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure.
You go to Film Freeway /ASVOF, ASVOF, and you submit. You just follow instructions. It's open to everyone and students. And deadline is the end of September. And the next edition will be right here, 3537 in Paris, November 10th to 13th, which is during Paris Photo in Paris. You should be there.
For sure, I will be.
I don't have
chosen
the
the second
president
city?
yet. It's probably going to Rome again.
Rome again.
In Casa del Cinema.
Casa del Cinema.
It's the oldest independent cinema in Rome, in the Borghese Gardens. But that's not confirmed, but they were very happy with the last edition.
So thank you very, very much for being
You're
with
welcome.
us, for sharing your knowledge and your time. Diane.
You're welcome.
I see a light within your heart.